How are you?
I'm so well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How are you
I'm
doing?
not too bad. I'm a great fan of yours.
Thank you for saying that. As I am of you, thank you for having me on your show.
Well, no time left for the interview now that we've done this. That's it.
All the gratitude.
Yeah, we just ran out of time. See you later.
Yeah.
What a year it's been for you, but also
Mm.
what a year to have such beautiful things happen and in some ways not be able to fully celebrate them. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah. It's been such an interesting year, and honestly, just celebrating in general has is such a weird feeling in the context of looking at all that's going on in the world and what everybody's feeling on a global scale, and it's like it makes the moments that are those silver lining celebrations feel, I think, even more special to me, and makes all the moments feel more special, I guess. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, okay, this is a strange and interesting time in the story that I know I will never forget looking back on this past year.
That being said, it's been amazing. How do you look back on this last year of your life?
With a lot of smiling, honestly. It's like there have been a lot of moments of things that I've dreamt about since I was a little kid actually becoming a real thing. I got to play the Academy of Country Music Awards this past year at the Ryman to an empty audience of just a handful of camera operators. And that was like such an incredible experience. It's like, I don't know that the Ryman Auditorium can ever feel empty. There's something spiritual about that place, anyways, where you just feel like there's a lot going on in there. But to share that moment, playing on the show and getting to celebrate that award was amazing. And I think looking back, I will always remember that the lemonade stand came out in the middle of the pandemic. And that was a time when I still have been just walking around my neighborhood, pacing like for hours, putting one foot in front of the other somehow just feels like really I don't know, therapeutic to me, I guess. And so I've been listening to tons of music, and that really gave me hope to be excited about putting out this record in this time because I think we all need music more than maybe ever before. It's like this, I don't know, anchor of hope that's what it's felt like to me. So it was really exciting to get to share that music in this time.
I've never found myself. You're right. I've never found myself listening to so much music as I have during this time and walking around, putting on playlists and putting on records. I want to go back to something you said there. You said this is sort of a realization of a childhood dream. So Grand Prairie, right, is where you grew up.
That is,
A
yes.
lot of Newfoundlanders in Grand Prairie. I'll point that out.
Yes, there are.
We
I
are.
love everybody I've ever met from Newfoundland, the best people.
Oh, we're pretty. I could introduce you to a few assholes, though. I'm sure. Was the goal to be a performer?
Yeah, that's always been the goal. I've just always loved music. I was the kid singing along at the top of my lungs to every Shania Twain song in the backseat of the car and just like dreaming of being on stages like her someday. And my grandparents bought me my first guitar when I turned 14 and started realizing a couple of chords that went together and that I could start putting music to some of the lyrics I'd been writing in my journals. And that was so exciting to I think when I really started writing is when I went, "Oh yeah, like this is it. I really want to do this." So, it's been a dream of mine my whole life.
Was the dream general performing, or was the dream country music?
You know, I think the dream was just music. I think, it was like, well, I got to go to a handful of concerts. We get some of them coming through Grand Prairie, and then occasionally we'd take the 5 hour road trip and go get to see some shows at the Rexall Place in Edmonton. And it was always like whatever kind of music was coming out of that place, it just made me feel alive being in the presence of live music. So I think I was always drawn to country because of the stories. And I used to travel with my grandparents in their motorhome on summer road trips, and it was almost exclusively Dolly Parton, like Coat of Many Colors over and over. And that song to me sets the bar of as far as storytelling goes. And that's definitely where I feel like my music's felt the most at home.
It's a scary thing, when a family member goes to you and says, I want to try this out. because I want to be a musician, I want to be a performer, because it's such a scary life, you know, and
Yes.
it's such a risky life in so many ways. How was everyone on board?
I have the most amazing family and honestly community. Like I just grew up watching everybody show up for one another, and whether it was fundraisers for a family or it just was like there was always fun things going on, of singing songs in people's backyards and performing at local theater things, and all my family and friends would come out, and they've just been a part of this adventure with me from the beginning. But I do think I gave my parents a heart attack when I told them I wasn't going to college, that I was gonna, hit the road. And my dad is a big believer in Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour theory. And so I used that really hardcore in my pitch to convince him that I had to go work on my hours and hit the road. And I did. We spent 32 weeks in a motorhome driving almost all the way across Canada, playing for middle schools and high schools right as I finished graduating high school. And
What?
and then once that tour wrapped, I moved here to Nashville.
Hold on, you just got in a motorhome and just played high schools and junior highs.
Yeah, I was trying to think of any way I could play for an automatic audience with really not having a lot of music out. Or And I was like, well, we had assemblies that used to come to through our school, and like that would be fun. And so we tried it out in Alberta and just like did, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks of it. And it was like, this is really fun. The program was called Play It Forward, and it was like encouraging kids to be who they are and then make a difference in their hallways and play it forward. So I heard the most amazing stories about these kids who are just like kind of the silent heroes in the schools. And so it was also like not only living out that part of my dream for the first time, but really just meeting the most incredible people and hearing the most amazing stories, that it felt like a window into the shared human experience. It was really fun.
So you do that, and then you moved to Nashville. How long have you been in Nashville now?
7 years.
Can we talk about the big song?
Sure.
This was the Lemonade Stand, of course, is the record we're talking about. But this was the big song for you, I think. Just take a listen to this.
Bet she was somebody's best friend, laughing back when she was somebody's sister, counting change at the lemonade stand. Probably somebody's high school first kiss, dancing in a gym where the kids all talk about someday plans. Now she's glad to turn green and I'll hand her a couple dollars. Oh, and I wonder how she felt when no one caught her. Somebody's daughter.
I mean, I can see a sizable amount of the Canadian public going, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah!" right now as they hear that song. That is Somebody's Daughter by my guest Tenille Townes. I was watching you while the song was playing. I hope you don't mind me saying, because I was like, sometimes I'm a bit nervous playing the big song for somebody. And you sort of had your eyes closed. And it sort of looked like you were listening to someone else singing it, you know?
Oh, it's the weirdest thing to hear my own voice coming back at me. I'm always sort of like so excited and grateful, because it just is like, wow, this is still real life. Like people listen to this song, and like that's so exciting. And it's also like, oh man, it kind of makes me feel really shy and awkward. But
Well, that's the goal.
yeah.
What do you remember about writing that one?
So, okay, so my mom had recently visited me here in Nashville, and we were going furniture shopping and took this exit off the interstate and saw a young girl standing there holding onto a cardboard sign. And we were parked a few cars behind at this red light and watched the vehicle in front of us like get out, and I think he got like some Gatorade out of the cooler in the back of his truck and passed it to this girl. And we just had this moment sitting in the car going like, what's her story? And how do I get to be here driving beside my mom, going on this daily adventure? And like the circumstances of all of us are always so different. The hands that we're dealt, and all the left turns that we take. And so we really talked about it for a while in the car that day, and the conversation stuck with me. And I got to write with two of my heroes, Luke Laird and Barry Dean, a few days later. And I'd never written with them before, but I showed up at Luke's studio, and he had this loop started that was pretty much in the same key of a few lines I'd been messing with. And Barry walked up the stairs and had this newspaper article that talked about how street numbers and names can correspond with low income areas and homelessness. And it was like, whoa, I really feel like this is the song that we're supposed to write today. So that moment, right from writing it, I knew when we walked out of the room, I was like, this song feels like special to me. And I'm really grateful that it felt like sort of an introduction to this season of my life, and being able to share that song and know that people heard it is the most wonderful thing to me.
Why do you think? I mean, I could hazard a few guesses, but why do you think it was so resonant?
You know, I love the way that music can sometimes talk about things that are hard to just have a conversation about. And I think that anytime we see somebody who might have a story that's different than ours, and especially when we see somebody who looks like they could use some help, it you can't help but let it pull at something in you, and it's like your mind starts spinning, and sometimes there's no time to think about it, and your car just drives by. But in those moments that it catches you, I think it really has an impact on us as human beings. So I hope that that's a big part of the reason, and it's meant a lot hearing people come up to me after a show or sending in an Instagram message or something and saying that someone in their life is out there on the streets and that telling the story meant so much to them, or even people who had been in that position in their life and are now, doing amazing or doing great, but reflecting on that time in their life when it was really hard and they were holding on to a cardboard sign. And that's just the most amazing thing to me, to hear from people like that.
There's no shortage of times when you get that song written and you think this might be the one, and sadly it isn't. You you think everything is going, this is the perfect song, I have the perfect team, I have the perfect moment, and it's something happens, and you and I know them both. That
Yep.
just whatever happened didn't happen.
Yeah.
So what was it like when it started to happen?
It's really hard to even put into words, because it's kind of like you're saying, there's so many times, leading up to this moment where it was like, okay, this was close, but not quite, or this didn't lead up. And this whole walk to me, honestly, from the beginning, I'm really grateful for the sense of trust that things just kind of, even when it's hard and the doors are closed, it's like, well, there's got to be some kind of reason for this. And so you just kind of keep following the cracks in the open doors and the feeling in your gut when you really got to push on it a little harder and hope that things just kind of keep leading to the next right thing. And so it was really exciting seeing this play out. And it's like, I kind of had sketched out the details in my mind of what it would feel like and look like, but there's no color in that.
Yeah.
And so, living it out for real, it definitely was like just so much more amazing and emotional. And I think the highs were greater and the lows were greater than I ever could have guessed in it. It's like, wow, this is really exciting.
When did you know? Like, was it like you were in the pet store and all of a sudden it's playing, or, like, how did you?
I was driving to a sound check somewhere in North Carolina the first time that I heard it come through the radio, and I definitely lost my mind in the car. But I think I was out on the Burning Man tour with Dierks Bentley, and the first part of our run was through Canada, and we started in Ontario and worked our way west. And as we kept going, the song was getting closer to a number one in Canada, and it was like I could see more and more people at each of the shows singing along as we went, and that was I think one of the most surreal things to me. I'd never heard a group of people in an arena before singing along, so that was amazing.
I want to play another song off the record.
Okay.
Take a listen to this.
I was waiting on my chariot to steal me away, wishing on stars and fairy dust and running low on faith. Yeah, the way that I saw it, my true love would come calling, tossing pebbles at the window of my ivory tower. I was looking for roses, oh, but how would I know that love's a little closer to a wildflower?
You're just tuning in. This is Q. What you're hearing right now is the song White Horse by my guest, Grand Prairie, Alberta's own Tenille Townes. I was a bit sneaky earlier when I asked you if performing country music was the goal, because I wanted to ask you about this, because you seem to just write songs as opposed to write country songs. Like that to me sounds like it could be like a Tom Petty song or something like that. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But do you know what I
that.
mean? Like, can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because you don't seem bound by a genre which I am enamored with, which is country music, and have been my entire life. But one that I know has some limitations around it in terms of its composition, and you don't seem as bound by that.
Well, thanks. Thanks for saying that. That really means a lot, because although the family of country music feels like my favorite place to land, I really have always experienced listening to music and creating music without any sort of walls around it. It's just like the song becomes what it's supposed to become, and I'm just following along for the ride. And to me, it's so much more exciting to just think about music as music. That's how I listen to it. So it's fun to sort of paint outside of the walls a little bit every now and then.
Does it ever feel like a limitation when you're writing music that, like, okay, well, I gotta watch this now for country?
Honestly, I feel super grateful to be surrounded by a team that believes in what I'm doing, and also fellow collaborators who are also just super open to letting the music kind of become what it's supposed to. So I try really hard to not get too focused in on, like, okay, we need to write a song for radio, or let's think about the sort of whatever qualifies as a country radio thing. It's like, I don't know how to really do that. I just know how to, like, write what I want to write. And I'm grateful that the people I work with find a way to make those things work and fit in the places that they need to. So that's been my experience so far.
But I'd even add maybe that's because of writers like you and Ashley McBride or Maren Morris and stuff like that. That, like, or Casey Musgraves. Like there are. It seems like the limitations around the music are opening up a little bit. It seems like audiences are more receptive to different types of music than perhaps we thought they were.
I think you're right. I think that's a really great way to say that. I think people can feel and tell when something is authentic and true. Like when you're looking at art or listening to art that feels like the person who's creating it, then it doesn't really matter what it fits on. Or I think that's also what the evolution of music's job is to kind of keep growing it and pushing the boundaries. That's sort of, when you look back on the history of music, it never stays in one place. It just kind of is this living, breathing thing. So as creators, we sort of get to be a part of that and hope to keep paving the road that the same one that I'm getting to walk on now from the ones who have come before. So just doing my best to do my part and keep it moving.
Can you tell me about winning the Academy of Country Music Awards? I mean,
Yeah.
I get the performance and how amazing that was, but to win the award for, is it a new female artist of the year? Was that it?
Yep. Yes. I still, even just hearing you say that out loud, is like, wow, it just is, it's very surreal to me.
Well, it happened. I'm not going to be the one. I'm not the one here to go, well, it didn't happen. It was a fever dream.
It actually happened.
Tell me about,
so cool.
Tell me about not so much what it's like, but like what it is. Like what happens? Are you sitting in a chair and you hear your name, and what happens in your brain?
So, well, the thing was, this was sort of like a pandemic celebration. So I thought I was doing a Zoom radio interview, and my manager we hit the link, and all of a sudden Keith Urban's face pops up on the screen.
Happens
and
to me all the time, by the way.
I mean, my hands started shaking. I think I like literally gasped for air. I was just like, what is happening? And he proceeded to tell me that I had won the award and was going to get to play the show. And so that was such a cool way to find out, and such a special thing to get to really see his face while he told me. And then it was, getting excited for the show. But I think the thing that that experience felt like the community of country music pulling up a chair and letting me come and sit around this table in a different way. And to be, it's such a community that I respect and admire. And so to feel included in that it just feels like such a cool honor. So that was really special.
Right, because you were a long time sort of member of the community of Canadian country music, which is sort of its own community, even within Nashville. Like
that's true.
Even within Nashville, the Canadians kind of know one another, and there's sort of a scene. But you sort of I don't want to say move on, but like you sort of also become part of the larger country music community. And I'm never going to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. But the Junos are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. And I mean, I think it's fair to say you got a pretty good shot at taking home the Juno for Country Album of the Year.
Oh man, thank you.
Is that still meaningful to you, the Canadian stuff?
It's insanely meaningful to me. I mean, literally the Canadian community is the place of the beginning for me, and where I learned so much and, got to write with so many of my friends up there and really started experiencing things for the first time in sharing music with people and being on the road. And so it was really kind of terrifying to take the leap and move to Nashville and try knocking on doors here, just because it's a whole new world, but also it's just kind of hard to leave the world. And so to feel like I really haven't left and to feel the embrace of people from home is something that just will always and forever mean so much to me.
I saw it announced that you actually have a post-pandemic tour finally starting to happen with the Brothers Osborne, who, I mean, TJ Osborne himself has become he was already an amazing songwriter and singer, but now he's become such an inspirational figure to so many people within country music. Given the year that we've had, can you begin to imagine what that's going to be like?
I can't even tell you how excited my heart is and how ready I am to get back out there and see everybody. And I couldn't imagine a more incredible scenario than joining Brothers Osborne. I'm the biggest fan of their music. I love their records so much, and I'm even bigger fans of who they are as human beings. They've been incredibly kind to me, and it's just going to be so cool to get to watch their show every night and get to play. And I think it's going to take a minute for the entire human race to kind of come out of this season of isolation and pandemic and being around people. And I think there's going to be a lot of emotions that come with that, but I'm so ready for all of them. I can't wait.
I wonder, maybe this is a good way to close things off. I wonder if you could pick a song on the record for us to play, but one that maybe needs a little bit more love. Like I feel like, there's the single and then there's the other single and then there's the song everyone's talking about. But sometimes I feel like when I ask this, it's often an opportunity for the performer or the artist to think of a song that maybe isn't getting the love it deserves, but is meaningful to you.
Aw, thank you for saying that. Okay, well, I would have to say this song is one that my great-grandmother was a part of inspiring. Shortly after I'd moved to Nashville, we lost her, and I was so grateful to have her in my life for over 20 years, and she's just like the glue to our family and the biggest human teddy bear. She used to bring her lawn chair and drink her lucky beer at all the outdoor shows I played, and like she was just there, rain or shine, and such a special woman, and we all miss her a lot. So I was thinking of her writing this song. It was kind of one of those songs that feels like it just sort of fell, and I got to be the vessel to catch it. And I love that songs sort of bring a lot of healing on their way through, and this one did for me. And the day that we recorded this song, I got to wear her earrings, and the studio that I worked at is actually an old church that has been turned into a studio. So we moved a couple acoustic guitars up to the altar and just ran the song to see what would happen. And they pressed record, and that take from top to bottom is what you hear on the record. So this is When I Meet My Maker, track number 7.
Can I ask what her name was?
Yeah, Georgette Willette.
Rhyming name.
I know, right?
That sound. What a cool Georgette Willette.
Georgette Willette. Yeah, such a special woman.
Well, listen.
Thanks for asking her name.
Oh, come on. I try to do it whenever I can. Lovely to talk to you.
So lovely to talk to you. Ah, such a joy. Thank you for being such a cool human being.
Thank you for being such a cool human being. I've been speaking with Tenille Townes, Grand Prairie's own. Make sure to tune into the Junos later this spring to see if she takes home the award for Country Album of the Year. But if I had $20, which I don't, I'd be plonking it down. Her album, The Lemonade Stand, is out now.